All right, welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. Today we're going to be talking about why I think the Rams might actually be turning a corner. Before we get into it, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, be sure to follow me on all social media at JK Bogan, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Kick, and Twitch. You can check out the links in the description below if you want to follow any of those. And just want to let you guys know that today's sponsor is BetUS. You can get a 150% bonus match on your first deposit using promo code YouTube150. In addition to that, on your next two, you're going to get a 125% bonus match your next two deposits. So be sure to check that out. Get ready for the game this weekend against the Rams and Eagles. All right. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about this team, a lot of thinking about the offense, my comments. I went through and I had some interesting things that I found about the Matthew Stafford era. Now, I love doing research, right? Sometimes to a fault. And what I actually found out is that Matthew Stafford has had a full projected offensive line starting for him. So when I say that, I mean an offensive line that is supposed to be the starting five regardless of injuries, right? And that also includes, and I want to make this clear, back in 2023, last year, when the Rams had an injury in week 4, the Colts game, and Kevin Dotson came in. But of course, because there was an injury, Noteboom also played. And then they went back to Alec Jackson. Kevin Dotson stayed at right guard. That's what I'm talking about. After that, that is a designated starting five. That is who is healthy. So, talking about who's supposed to start, which starting five, like we're talking about the offensive line and who is supposed to start. Matthew Stafford has started 56 games in his Rams career, including the postseason. And in 29 of them, he's had a fully healthy offensive line that was supposed to start. Going into the game, obviously there are games where he lost a lot of those, and he lost them early on, but he's had 29 of his 56. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I can tell you right now, 2021, 13 of 17 regular season games. He had all his starters on the offensive line, 3 out of the 4 postseason games. Keep in mind, Whitworth did not play that Tampa game. 2022, he had 1 of 9 starts, which was week 1, and he lost pretty much all of them in that game, it seemed like. 2023, he had 11 of his 15 starts. He had 11 that he actually was able to have a starting offensive line. So kind of similar to the Super Bowl season. And they went to the playoffs that year, and he had all of his starters for the postseason game. This year, he's got 0. He has not had a game this year where all 5 guys starting were supposed to be the starters. There's always been an injury. Well, this is where I get into this, because I thought about this, and it's not as simple as just saying, yeah, the Rams are going to be great because I said so. You kind of have to do some digging, and you don't know for sure. This is a projection. This is based on evidence. This is based on film. This is based on stats. I'm officially, and I tweeted this out, so if you guys saw it on Twitter, then you already know, I'm officially planting the flag here. The Rams offense, who I've been very, very critical of, if they keep this starting five, and I'm designating their starting five as Alec Jackson, Steve Avila, Bo Limmer, Kevin Dotson, and Rob Havenstein. If these guys stay healthy, and this is their starting five the rest of the year, mark my words, this offense will be top 3 the rest of the season. Period. No discussion. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's really not. You got Matthew Stafford, you got Kyron Williams, you got Blake Corum, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Higbee will be back in a week or 2, right? Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Whittington. Now you have that to me is a top 10 offensive line. But don't just take my word for it. The way this is, shaping up, Alaric Jackson, for instance, has started 8 games, has 13 pressures allowed, 3 sacks. In case you're wondering if that's good or not, it is. 97.2 efficiency rating, which is very good. 97 is very good. 98 is when okay, that's really good. But 97.2 efficiency rating is really good. Steve Avila, left guard. He's only played 3 games, but in those 3 games, he's allowed 3 pressures and a sack. You might think, wow, he's allowed a pressure per game and a sack. It's not that great. It is. That's a 98.1 pass protection efficiency rating. That's very good. Center Bo Limmer, 9 games, 11 pressures allowed, 0 sacks. That's a 98.1, same as Avila efficiency rating. He is having a splendid rookie season. Kevin Dotson, 10 games this year. He's been questionable for a lot of games. He's been banged up since week 1 where he left the game with a walking boot. He didn't leave the game. He left the arena against the Lions in a walking boot, played the entire game. He's been the Iron Man this year, man, because this guy has been banged up and he just goes out there and puts it all on the line. So 10 games, 18 pressures, 3 sacks, not his best season, but 97.2 efficiency rating is very good. Rob Havenstein, right tackle, missed, last game, 7 games, 10 pressures, 3 sacks, 97.2. Every single one of those offensive linemen are 97 or above. This is a really good offensive line that we have never seen play with each other. We've seen 4 out of the 5 players play with each other. We saw Warren McClendon Jr. look really good, so I still think they'd be really good with Warren McClendon Jr. at right tackle. But Rob Havenstein is the straw that stirs the drink on that offensive line. He has always been an important key cog in this offense. We can never forget about that. He's the last remaining St. Louis Ram. He was there in 2015. He is important. So, also a captain for a reason. So, I want to add some context here. Obviously, I gave you the Matthew Stafford stuff. I gave you the offensive line stuff, courtesy of PFF. But I also want to point out why I've done some thinking, and I feel like I was a little bit too hard on the Rams against the Dolphins. First off, I said over and over and over again how high I was on the Dolphins defense Anthony Weaver was putting together. So I feel like it's a little unfair if I'm recognizing, self-admitting this is a good defense, and I just think I was a little unfair looking back on it. I rewatched some of those some of the highlights of my videos, just because I wanted to make sure, okay, did I say anything that maybe I went too far or whatever? I feel like I went too far. And the reason I say that is because I don't really care about the blowback or anything. This isn't me walking that back because of it. It's more so I want to be fair to just how I do things here, okay? And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus that maybe didn't deserve it. Let me just start off by saying this. I've been too hard on Jonah Jackson. You might be surprised to hear this because you're like, wait a minute, Jonah Jackson's been terrible. Why are you siding with Jonah Jackson? And I understand why you might think that. You might think, well, he's been terrible and, whatever, you're justified. But hear me out when I say this. Jonah Jackson has played 3 games. He has 0 sacks allowed and 7 pressures. He has a 97.3 efficiency rating. Now, he has not been perfect. But it makes you wonder, first off, if he had a full offseason. He was hurt almost the whole offseason. And I also want to be clear, just because a guy's injury prone, it's not like he's slacking off. I think very often people associate guys that are always hurt as guys that just slack off and they don't put in the work, and that's why they're always hurt. That's not the case. He's had some fluky stuff happen. He's a hard-working player. I've heard some great things about him from behind the scenes. Unfortunately, they self-sabotage themselves. That is redundant as hell. But my point here is that Jonah Jackson was signed to play left guard, and Steve Avila was being developed to play center. He played center at TCU before moving over to guard because he's a team player. Now, this is important. Jonah Jackson barely had any camp. So he's dealing with injuries, he's coming back, and now he's playing center. And they dropped this on him without really much practice. There weren't a lot of practices there. So Jonah Jackson is not a center. He's never really played center before. And so now you have him at center, and the biggest issue with him has been snapping the ball. So I don't think that they put him in the best position to succeed. I'm sure they see that now, but I think I've been too hard on him because he's been placed at a position that is not his strength. And I know he got excited for it, but that was him being a team player. That was him being a team guy. That we want you to play center. What is he going to say? Oh, man, I really don't want to play center. No, he's going to say, like, if you're a team guy, of course, you're going to say, yeah, I'm excited. Like, this is really cool. And you might even talk yourself into the idea, maybe I was always supposed to be a center, which he did. The reality is he's not a center. He's just not. He's a guard. And it is a reality because quite often we do it all the time with the cross-training that we've seen under the Sean McVay era. We've seen all this cross-training. Aaron Cromer did it, and now we're seeing, of course, Wendell does it. And cross-training is great and all, but it doesn't mean necessarily when you're doing it in camp and practices that's going to translate immediately to the field. In addition to this, I also want to say Joseph Noteboom. I feel for the guy. I do. Okay, I don't think he has as much of a argument as Jonah Jackson as an excuse, I would say. He has not been great. I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't think he's been great. But with that said, this is somebody who is a left tackle and plays guard. He is not a right tackle, guys. And we saw that. He just looked like a fish out of water. So this leads me to my point. Okay, the Rams have always been turning a corner. It's been frustrating to watch their offense. No doubt about it. I've complained about it, and I feel like I was justified in complaining about it. Okay, I really do, because there are times where it's like this team is just not imaginative. For whatever reason, you have Sean McVay, and it just feels like this team is leaving a lot of points on the field. But let's also be fair here, okay? That game against the Dolphins, they won 3 straight to that point. So coming off the bye, they beat Seattle, who just beat the 49ers and actually are looking like pretty decent now. You see the McDonald, firsthand. You're seeing the McDonald defense start to become something and create its own identity. That's scary. So they beat a good Seattle team, albeit without DK Metcalf. Rams had plenty of injuries as well, so we're not going to get into that. But they beat the Seattle Seahawks on the road, first road win of the season. So they checked that box. They also beat the Vikings. I don't care if the Vikings were starting to go downhill. And by the way, they're still 8-2, I believe. So I don't even want to say that they were going downhill. But that was a huge win. Short week and everything. That was a huge win. They beat the Raiders in a game where we've seen them lose that style of game all year, it seems like. They took care of business. So they go on a 3-game winning streak, and they've basically had an inverse of the start of their season. Right? They went 1-4. Now they're 4-1 in their last 5. But that one is really bothersome to people. To me, I will say this. I think the Bears' loss is way worse than the Dolphins. The Bears are going nowhere, and the Dolphins, I think, could end up being in the playoffs. I think they're going to be the reverse Rams. That was a good football team that, honestly, the whole year, for the most part, didn't have Tua Tagovailoa. Then they get him back, and they play a wire-to-wire down-the-stretch game against the Cardinals, and they play a wire-to-wire down-the-stretch game where they lose on a field goal that I've watched him kick field goals before. Tyler Bass has missed that field goal many times in the past, and he drills it, and the Bills win on a field goal. So going into that Rams game, that was a desperate Dolphins team that as soon as they got Tua, they had instant success on the offensive side. The defense was playing well. And now all of a sudden you play the Rams and your back is against the wall. They played a desperate team. Now that would have been tough for them to beat, but the reality is it made it even tougher because they decided on the fly, after having really good play out of Bo Limmer, after having solid play out of Justin Diedick, they're moving guys all over the offensive line. Now you get Avila back, so he replaces Diedick, right? And of course, we knew that Rob Havenstein was not going to play, so Noteboom plays right tackle, and then you have Bo Limmer, who's on the bench when he's actually had a really good year because Jonah Jackson's back. So now you have 3 of the 5 guys who, during that 3-game win streak, weren't even on the field. Now you just shifted 3 of the 5 offensive linemen. How many times have we talked about on this show how they need to be a collective unit? They need to gel. There needs to be continuity. This is the first time that the projected offensive line albeit no Havenstein. 4 out of the 5 guys, this was the first time that 4 of the 5 initial guys that were supposed to be starters coming into the season, they all played. And guess what? It didn't look great. Okay, Steve Avila looked fantastic. He is him. He's going to be great. He's going to get paid. We know that. Alaric Jackson had some struggles, right? Playing next to a new left guard, and not new, but like he's been around Diedick and Logan Bruss, who's now on the Titans. I don't even think I got a chance to report that, but yeah, the Titans ended up picking him up after he was waived. Didn't love that, but we won't get into that. So Alaric didn't play his best game. Avila looked good. Jonah Jackson is just, he couldn't snap at center. He was really struggling. And he was also really struggling passing off. Like the communication is also a big part of center. So I think he has the tools, but playing him at center really put him in a bad spot. Then you have Dotson, who's been playing banged up. And then you had Joe Noteboom, who it's like, I said this in the live stream the other day. I was like, look, you're playing a right tackle. You're playing a left tackle at right tackle. That's like asking a right-handed batter to bat left-handed in the major leagues and expecting different results. And that's the thing. I think quite often we look at it as too much of an interchangeable position, but I've talked to tackles in this league and they've said it is hard. You either know how to play both or you don't. Switch hitters. They either know how to switch hit. They either know how to play on both sides of the batter's boxes and everything. They either can do both or they can't. Like there's not going to be switch hitters everywhere. To assume that is a commonality is just not fair. So I'm not saying Joseph Noteboom is the best thing since sliced bread because he's not. But this was always set up for failure, and I should have seen it. So I apologize because I didn't put that out there, but when we were doing the preview, I should have noticed this. I should have raised the alarm. This could be a problem. When you're moving that many guys in the middle of the season like that, it's a lot. And so, of course, Stafford didn't really have the time to throw. They moved the football, but they had a lot of stalled drives because of that. And you have Josh Carty end up kicking all, 15 of your points, right? So if you get rid of that, you look at what we saw against the Patriots, and they just made 2 moves. Noteboom got hurt, so they let Warren McClendon Jr., who played at the end of the Seahawks game after Havenstein went down. He played very well. Warren McClendon Jr. played right tackle, showed his development there. He's getting much better, guys, so be excited about that. He just needs to play right because he's not a left tackle. That's what we learned, opposite of Noteboom. But he's not a left tackle. Played well at right tackle. They get Bo Limmer back in the lineup. Bo Limmer over Jonah Jackson. Jonah Jackson was a healthy bench. That's what he was. He was fine. He wasn't injured. They just chose Bo Limmer, and they made the right decision. If Jonah Jackson is going to come back into this offensive line, unfortunately, it's going to be because of an injury, and hopefully that doesn't happen. As much as I, feel bad for Jonah Jackson being the odd man out, he's the odd man out. But what did you see? Instantly, when they changed up the offensive line, we saw success. That's what we saw. We saw success. And so you have 4 touchdown passes, and we could talk about how there were some things that went down. Okay, fine. But we saw 4 touchdown passes from Matthew Stafford. We saw 5.7 yards per carry from Kyren Williams. That was the best he's looked all year, and he didn't really get a chance to run that much, only 5 carries. But this is what I'm talking about, and this is why I am not out on this team at all. I know a lot of people are still like, yeah, I don't know about this Rams team. I don't know what you're talking about. Matthew Stafford, over his last 5 games, okay, he has a 65.5 completion percentage, which is, pretty much what he normally has. But he's got 10 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He has 9 big-time throws, according to PFF, and 6 turnover-worthy plays. That's actually good, by the way, because Jared Goff, for instance, has 5 big-time throws and 7 turnover-worthy plays. And he has 12 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So Matthew Stafford has 10 touchdowns in that span. That's good for 4th in the league. Do you know who he's behind right now in that stretch? Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jared Goff. All 3 guys are being named, MVP runners, right? I think right now Lamar Jackson is clearly the favorite. If not, it's Josh Allen. But Joe Burrow, if you put him on another team, is probably the MVP of the league right now. So Stafford has really turned up his game. And is that just Stafford? Like, oh, he wasn't playing well earlier because he just wasn't playing well? No. The fact is, Stafford has an offensive line. We saw for the first time all year the best offensive line. They only allowed 3 pressures. This is a New England defense, regardless of how you feel about them, that had 29 against the Bears. 29. I don't care what you say. The offensive line allowed 3 pressures on a defense that had 29 the week before. Okay? This is why I feel really good about saying this offense is going to be turning a corner. They're already doing it. They've been doing it. That Miami game wasn't an anomaly. That Miami game was unfortunately paying the price. It was a penalty. It was essentially just, it sucks, but hey, that's what happens. It's a lesson learned. And luckily, Sean McVay nipped it in the bud immediately and was like, yep, we're going to go back to Bo Limmer. Did not waste any time. Next week, Bo Limmer played. Next week, you now have Warren McClendon Jr. playing. Guess what? This weekend, I don't know if it's going to happen for sure. It sounds like it's potentially going to happen, but they could have Rob Havenstein. And I would declare that 5 as the 5. That is their starting 5. That would mean if Rob Havenstein plays this weekend, it would be the first time all year that Matthew Stafford has played with a true starting 5 offensive line. The guys that they actually want to start regardless of injury or not. That's an exciting thing. Stafford's looking better, just like last year, the second half Stafford. It was insane last year, truthfully. And this is the thing that, like, I don't think people are truly aware of. The job he did at the end of last year was really, really impressive because he did miss a game. Don't forget about that. He missed a game, the Packers game and all of that, but he came back and it was just, you could see it. This is a different player. Stafford, in the last 7 games of the year, tied Brock Purdy and Jordan Love for the most touchdowns thrown. He threw 16 in 7 games. He has 10 right now in 5. Okay, so Stafford does this. He gets hot at the end of the season. You know, they figure it out on the offensive line, whatever. Stafford last year had 14 big-time throws and 6 turnover-worthy plays. He was in his bag last year. And guess what? It hasn't been that long that Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua have been healthy. So these guys are still getting things going. And now you finally see, 3 touchdowns apiece. Over 200 yards. It's not a fluke. And it's not just, it was the Patriots. I'm so tired of hearing that. We got to be honest. Whether it sounds crazy and we don't want to believe it because we don't want to get too attached and then be disappointed, I don't care. What they're showing us is that the Dolphins game, while, I want to say there's no excuse, but there is because I'm explaining it. The Dolphins game, they just made a bad decision. And I can't even blame Sean McVay. You got excited. You got $18 million a year Jonah Jackson back. You got Steve Avila back, who's already one of the best guards in football. And you got Joseph Nopum back, who they really like. You might not, but they really like him. So they got excited and they got overzealous and it hurt them. Well, they already paid their punishment. So now moving forward, they know what is going to work. They know. I think it can't be stressed enough, guys, like what Bo Limmer is doing. Like, he's just really good at communicating. He has that elite athleticism. We know he had a 10 RAS score. He's 100th percentile center. We know that. But he's also a great communicator. That was my biggest issue with Coleman Shelton last year. Does he pass off those stunts well? How does he handle that? Not well at all. He was the weak link of the offensive line. They had a good offensive line last year. Well, now I think they have a better offensive line. Bo Limmer is becoming something special. Steve Avila never stopped being something special. Alaric Jackson is a good player. Kevin Dotson has been banged up all year, but at some point he's going to get things going, and he's still played at a pretty high level. And Rob Havenstein is so underrated. So, yes, if they all stay healthy, and I know that's a big ask, but if they all stay healthy, if that's the starting five the rest of the year, the Rams are going to be a top 3 offense in football. And that defense, the way they're playing, this team is going to be dangerous. Teams are going to be hoping they don't make the playoffs because I don't know how anyone would want to see this team. Why would you want to play this team in the playoffs? Matthew Stafford is one of the only quarterbacks in the NFC who's won anything. So, yeah, I don't think you want to see the Rams in the playoffs. I know you do, viewer, because you're probably a Rams fan. But I don't think any other team would want that. So, I guess what I'm saying here is bet against them if you want. But, be negative. Have your takes and all that. But I'm telling you right now, I've seen the light. No, I guess I have. And, I think I'm not going to apologize necessarily for my take, but I just wanted to make it clear that, I do have kind of a change in opinion. And when I went back and I looked at it, things aren't as bad as they appear. If that Dolphins game wasn't in prime time, it wouldn't look as bad. People would still be on the Rams. Right now, no one is on the Rams. They beat the Patriots, and they looked at that score, and they're like, 28-22? Yeah, the Rams don't blow anybody out. That's just the way they play it. I don't agree with it, but they don't blow anybody out. But that was still a big win. On the road, cross-country trip, not easy. Short week, right? So that's where I stand. Curious what you guys think, but I think they're a Philly win away from going on an absolute tear. That's what I think. And it's not going to be easy. I'm not at all trying to say this refound Saints team, now that they have Derek Carr back, they've won 2 straight. They look competitive. I'm not trying to say that they're an easy win, especially not in New Orleans. Not when the freaking division is wide open because Atlanta keeps losing. Nothing is going to be easy from here on out. Even that Jets game, okay, maybe, but still, I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think any of it's going to be easy. The rest of the schedule is the Eagles, the Saints. Then you have the Bills, the 49ers. You got the Jets, Seattle, and Arizona. They're going to have to earn it. But they had to earn it last year. And they were in a worse hole. They were 3-6. They were 3-6 going into week 11. And now going into week 12, they're 500. Going into week 11, they were 4-5. So a game up on last year's team. Was last year's team better? Well, we're going to find out. I don't believe they were. I don't. I think this defense is better. I know it sounds crazy without Aaron Donald, but I trust this defense more than last year. And this offense has almost a higher ceiling because we talked about last year, Cooper Kupp was playing at like 40% at the end of the year. He was not healthy. Cooper Kupp looks good. He's creating separation, some of the most in the league. I saw that earlier today. That was posted. He was 3rd in the league in separation for this past week. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. No, I feel really good about this team. This offensive line, just the way they responded, it shows me, it tells me, and maybe I'll never be right on this, but it gives me the vibe that the offensive line decisions absolutely crumbled that team. That's what happened. They just did too much at once, and it's not a position like defensive line you can mix and match. You could bring in guys in rotation. Offensive line, you don't rotate. These are the guys that you have, and it just was too much too quickly, and it really kind of ruined the momentum that they built, and they showed us against the Patriots. They have that momentum, an absolute masterclass from Ryan Wendell's squad, and I think we're going to continue to see that. So tough test. The Eagles haven't played a ton of teams, but the last game that they played was a statement win against Washington. And in addition to that, this is one of the best pass defenses in the league, if not the best. You have to look out for up front guys like Jalen Carter, but you also have to look up, for guys like Quinion Mitchell in the secondary. So there's a lot of guys. Obviously, I didn't mention everybody, but this is not going to be an easy win. That's why I do believe if they win this game, and right now I believe they're going to, they're going on an absolute tear. Mark my words. So that's going to do it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to check out today's sponsor, BetUS. YouTube 150 is the code, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, folks. Later. Just want to let you guys know that we are doing all 22 live breakdowns every single week, Rams football related, over on Kick exclusively. That's kick.com/JKBogan if you want to get in on the action. And if you want a little something more than just football, I also do gaming streams as well. So check that out. Link is in the description, and hope to see you there. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.